Yes, yes. What's going on, people? It's that time again, episode 22 of the Boxing Lowdown podcast. And listen, as always, I'm delighted to be joined by my co-host, my dad, the main man, Mr. Laurie from AFTV. What's happening?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I was just gonna say no shadow boxing today. I was literally gonna say that, man. Where's the hands, man? But you did it. You did it.
It's it, man.
I like that green screen you got there as well, man. I like that.
Take a look at that. Take a look at that, yeah? That is what you call a great fighter. That is what we're talking about. Yeah? When you talk about boxing greats, look at that man there. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's been many, many great fighters over the years. But that man we're looking at back there is perhaps the greatest that ever did. My idol, and I'm sure the idol of millions and millions around the world, not just for his exploits in the ring, but for what he represented outside the ring, even to this day, even though he's been dead now a number of years. Salute to that man.
What about Canelo?
Don't get me started, man. You know what I mean? They've already got me down as a Canelo hater.
Yeah, listen, man.
Actually, you know what? To be fair to Canelo, I know he's on the record as saying that Ali, I think it's either he said his favorite fighter or one of his favorite fighters. I don't know if Mexicans are allowed to say that a non-Mexican is their favorite fighter, but I know that, you know, but Canelo, I think he said on the record, I'm pretty sure he has done, isn't he?
I was going to say, yeah, I think he has, but then everyone says Ali's their favorite fighter, don't they?
Well, I don't know, man. Mexicans tend to be quite tribal about their boxing, you know what I mean? Not that I've got a huge problem with that, to be honest, but if you talk to a Mexican about who's the best fighter in the world, predominantly they're going to say Canelo, aren't they? Or they'll always tip their own to winning fights. I've noticed that. Yeah. But there you go.
Well, listen, anyway, man, we've got another stack show again. As always, man, we've got a lot to talk about. We've got boxing to go through. We're going to keep it to an hour today, or try and make it just over, because obviously you're in the AFTV studios. We've got a game tonight, and I know there's going to be people walking up back and forth. So, yeah, let's get straight to it, man. Those of you that are in the chat already, what's going on? What's happening? Say hello, man. Drop a comment, drop a like, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's get it popping, man. You know how we do it. We speak our piece. We talk about what we want to talk about on here, and then we'll respond to any comments as they come in. We reply to all the comments on here. So if you guys got anything to say, want us to answer, got anything you want to talk about, drop a comment, man. Hit the like button on the video, share it so we can get it out to more people. Subscribe to the channel, and let's keep it moving, man. Listen. This weekend, we got a big fight going on, and I want to do a preview on that a bit later on. But my first thing I want to get to you and ask you is the title of this video, and that is Fury ducking AJ? And the reason why I'm not using this to try and troll people or to try and reel people in, but the reason why I'm saying this is because over the last couple of days, over the last couple of weeks, actually, we've seen like numerous people involved, like Eddie Hearn, AJ, and then we've seen people on like Tyson Fury's side as well, like Frank Warren, Bob Arum, you know, all positive news, all saying that this fight is pretty much done. All the hurdles are cleared. You know what I mean? You know, the WBO situation looked like it was resolved. The situation with Wilder looked like it was resolved. And recently, there's been some strange comments coming from Tyson Fury and his dad. Now, Tyson Fury did an interview with ESPN a week or so ago. And it came across as quite negative with regards to that fight, this fight happening in June. He was talking about not being active. He was talking about how, you know, he feels that might have an effect on him. And ideally, he'd like to have more preparation. Like he wanted to have the fight in December, but he didn't get that. And then he also did an interview with IFL recently. And, you know, he's just throwing it out there. He's saying things like, you know, maybe I might fight Wilder again, even though he said a couple of weeks ago that he'll never fight Wilder again. Then he started saying, oh, who knows if this fight's going to happen? It might not happen, blah, blah, blah. So slowly some doubts are starting to creep in now after everybody was optimistic. Everybody was thinking to themselves, yeah, man, this fight's going to happen. Both sides of them are saying like, look, yeah, it's looking positive. Tyson Fury's come out with this. Is he playing mind games? Is he getting cold feet? What's going on, man? Fury fans, what's going on? Seriously, does he still want this fight or not? Talk to me, man. Is he playing mind games? Is it all part of the games? I don't know. Or is it just like, is he getting cold feet? What do you think it is?
Well, it's an interesting situation because I remember a few weeks ago on this show, you asked me the question about the Fury fight and AJ. And I said to you, I said, look, let's not get too carried away, man. Okay, there's lots of positive talks about the contracts in the processes of being signed and all the rest of it. They should announce a date soon. And I remember saying to you that we just, caution, let's not go overboard yet because you don't know how this might play out. And here we are now. I mean, listen, it's also interesting that how the narratives have shifted a little bit with regards to this fight. Because if you remember, after AJ's last fight, when he knocked out Pulev, and in the post-fight interview, he was asked about Fury, and he wasn't didn't come across as crazy confident.
Yeah, I remember.
And I remember saying to people, that's just not in AJ's style to trash talk and to start calling people out like that. He tends to be a bit more reserved. And some people criticized him for that, saying, it didn't look like he wanted it, man, and could this be ducking? And now here we are, fast forward a few weeks, and it seems to be Fury that seems to be backtracking a little bit. So where's his energy now? But then, you know what? With Tyson Fury, I think it was Bob Arum who once said, yesterday I was lying, today I'm telling the truth. And I think Tyson Fury can be sort of put in that same category when it comes to how he deals with the press. He's very inconsistent with a lot of stuff that comes out of his mouth. So I wouldn't really take it too seriously. Sounds like it's mind games to me. I mean, I don't think for 1 minute that Fury's afraid of AJ. But it could be a little tactic to get in AJ's head. I don't know if it's supposed to do that. I don't think it will.
It's not going to do that. Why? I don't know. Why would you do this now? I mean, someone educate me. I don't know. But why would you do this now when literally we're just about to cross over the line? Everyone's being positive. Both sides, not just AJ and Eddie Hearn. Both teams are saying it. Like Bob Arum, Frank Warren, AJ, Eddie Hearn are all literally saying look, we're almost there, expect something coming soon. And all of a sudden, you've got Tyson Fury saying this now. This mind games, it's not really going to affect AJ now, is it? Because on one hand, you've been saying, I'm going to beat him easy. I don't need much prep at all. I'll knock him out in 2 rounds, this, and that. And then now we're hearing you say stuff like, oh, well, I haven't been in shape, haven't really had the time to prepare. I've been inactive. It's not ideal. But I thought you were going to knock this guy out in 2 rounds.
Yeah. Also, it could be because remember a few weeks ago we saw pictures of Tyson Fury. He was clearly on holiday and he was coming out of the sea or wherever he was, and he looked a bit fleshy, didn't he? He looked a bit overweight, and I think people at the time were saying, "Hang on a minute, shouldn't you be in the gym already? You know what I mean, doing your pre-preparations for the fight?" And like you said, he countered by saying, "Oh, I don't need no time to beat that bum, blah blah blah." Typical Tyson Fury. Obviously, AJ would be in the gym, and we've seen pictures of him in the gym working on different things. Maybe Tyson Fury's looking at that and thinking, you know what, maybe I'm behind the 8 ball. Maybe I need more time to prepare. So this kind of negative spiel that he's coming out with on IFL could be a representation of that. He might be thinking in the corner of his mind, you know what, I need more time to prepare. So it's not good signs, really. I mean, however way you want to slice it, it doesn't make him come across in a great light, to be honest.
No, it's not, because like I said, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but one side of the coin, you're saying, yeah, everything's positive, we expect an announcement soon. And then you have Fury on the other hand saying, oh, well, we're far away from this happening. Well, I don't know if this is going to happen right now. And look, it could turn into one of those things where he's just playing around with the media. He's done it plenty of times before. And then when the fight is announced, everyone will be coming back to me saying, see, you're getting worried for no reason. But that's just how I am. I just want the fight to be done. We've been told that this fight was close to happening and a deal would be announced in 2 weeks for the last 6 weeks. Do you know what I mean? And we're still here and nothing yet. We've got some comments here. Let me go through some comments. Big up Mohammed and Konrad in the chat. As always, man, regular contributors to the channel. Mohammed has said here, Fury was talking about AJ, not mentioning his name after the AJ Pulev fight. And now he's making these comments. But I still see the fight happening this year. What do you think?
Yeah, well, that's what I was alluding to earlier when you asked me. And I said, if you remember, after the Pulev fight, Peter was criticizing AJ, saying that his energy after the fight when he was asked about Fury didn't make him come across as very confident. And like I said to you, I interpreted that differently from a lot of other people because I know what AJ's like. And he doesn't do the whole trash talking thing. He's not into calling people out and stuff like that. You saw that even as far back as when he fought Dillian that time. You know what I mean? He's not comfortable insulting fighters, it would appear. He tends to go down a slightly different route. He's one of those guys that I'll get you in the ring type of thing. Whereas Fury, we know what he's like. He's very verbose, very confident, likes to play the mind games, likes the trash talking and all that. And that's what I'm saying. It's ironic that now we're supposed to be getting close to the contracts being signed and dates being announced and fighters going into camp. Now we're seeing a slightly different tone from Fury, which is
cold feet. Is it cold feet? I don't know. Like,
I'm curious. I do. He's a fighting man, definitely. I don't think you can accuse him of being scared, but deep in the back of his mind, knowing, I mean, a little bit about how boxers think, he might be thinking to himself, well, you know what? The time's kind of catching up on me a little bit. Maybe I should put this back a little bit and give myself more time to prepare. So that's my reading of it. Different people have their own different interpretations. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Konrad said here, if Fury wants a warm-up fight, AJ would surely have to face Usyk in the meantime. Sounds all very complicated. Yeah, because I thought we cleared this hurdle. I thought we cleared it. Do you know what I mean? But then we saw Usyk's manager or promoter, one of them, came out and he said that we ain't had no discussions with Team Joyce, so we don't know where we are with this fight, and the WBO may have to make a decision for the good of boxing and announce like Usyk as the mandatory for AJ instead. So suddenly we were all very positive, you know, a couple of weeks ago, and now like we've got Team Usyk and his manager saying like we haven't had no negotiations with Joe Joyce, but then we've seen Joe Joyce's team counter that and say, yep, discussions are ongoing. And then we've got AJ and Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum saying that this is looking like it's going to go. And then you've got Fury saying, oh, no, we're not there yet. This is the problem with boxing, man. And I don't watch the UFC, but I just don't see these sort of things happening in the UFC. I know it's a different model, but these sort of things don't happen.
Yeah. And you know what? That point you made about the UFC is actually a very good point. Because I'd go as far as to say that boxing is actually made me a fan of the UFC. And I'm sure I'm not the only one, you know what I mean? When UFC first came out, MMA and all that type of stuff, I have to say I was vaguely interested because it's a combat sport, but I didn't really take too much interest in it. But over time, and you saw the inevitable comparisons to boxing, people saying, oh, it's better than boxing, it's more challenging, the people fight one another. I started to watch more and more of it. And I have to say, man, that I quite enjoy the UFC. I mean, I was watching one of the fights at the weekend. Israel Adesanya. He's taking on a Polish guy, Blachowicz, for his light heavyweight title. Stepped up a weight, took the challenge, and he lost. And he took the L. And if you look at the way things are materialized after the fight, he's still getting a lot of love from the UFC people. They're saying, look, you know, he took on the challenge. He dared to be great. I just wish that would happen more and more in boxing, man. You know what I mean? But I digress. But yeah.
More comments here in the chat. Let's go through them quickly. Muhammad has put here, I think Fury wants one more fight before he fights AJ because inactivity could cost him if it doesn't. Yeah, but I thought he said he'd beat AJ in 2 rounds. I thought it'd be an easy fight. Shane in the comments has put here, what's happening, Shane? Hope you're good, bro. He's put, Fury is the same man who said on his comeback he doesn't want any pushovers, but then he fought them 2 cab drivers. And then he says, personally, I don't think Fury is good at not being the A side and the favorite. So you don't think he's good?
Right, you know what I'd say about Fury, right? This is what we're seeing now is Tyson Fury. He's consistently inconsistent. And if you go back to when he first won the title, when he beat Klitschko, he did a similar thing. He beat Klitschko and then he didn't defend. There was all this stuff coming out about him, and then there was the other stuff with his private life. You know what I mean? He's a very inconsistent guy.
No, he hasn't defended his belts once.
Yeah, both in what he says and what he does. He's a maverick. Probably that's what makes him the fighter he is as well. You can't divorce the two, to be honest, but he's a maverick, which is why I've always said that as much as I admire him and admire his skills, he's not really my type of fighter. I'll just keep it 100. because I don't really like the inconsistency with him. You know what I mean? It makes it very hard to really follow him and get behind him like that. You know, so that's just my way of thinking.
Big up Sully here in the chat. What's happening, bro? I hope you're good. Sully, he was on the chat when we was on Jeff's show with Shane. So good to see you over here, Sully, man. Good to see you, man. He's put Tyson Fury on the latest IFL video said he doesn't care if it's Wilder or AJ next, but Fury already promised to never fight in Wilder again because of the gypsy comment Wilder made. Exactly. That's what I said earlier. He said he wasn't going to fight Wilder again. Now he's on IFL saying, oh, it could be Wilder next. Well, what's going on? Is there something in the case? Is there something in the case that we don't know about? You know, is Wilder, is he making progressions in that case, court case that they've got going on? Like, what is it? Because I thought you said you wasn't going to fight Wilder next.
This is what I'm saying about Tyson Fury, man. You know what I mean? Inconsistent. He's always been like that as well. You know what I mean? He'll say one thing today and something completely different the next. So I've long since given up trying to understand how this guy thinks, man. You know what I mean? Because he'll wake up, he'll say one thing, he'll wake up the next day and say something completely the opposite. That's the man. That's how he is. That's what he does.
Let's flip it. Imagine if AJ said this. Because you imagine the fans going off at him if he was saying this about like...
They were giving him stick just because he wasn't trash talking Fury after the Pulev fight, which I thought was weird. People saying to me, oh, you can see you don't really want it. I'm like, when did he say that? He said he wants to fight. If you were waiting for AJ to start trash talking and calling Fury names, you're thinking about the wrong guy. I think you're confusing him with Dillian Whyte. It's two completely different guys. You know what I mean? That's the beauty of boxing as well, all different characters. And Tyson Fury as well. A lot of people like that with Tyson Fury. They like that inconsistency. They like him being a maverick and somebody who's hard to read and unpredictable. Some people I speak to say they don't like AJ because he's too predictable and he's quite scripted and all the rest of it. So,
good point.
I guess it pays your money, it takes your choice, isn't it?
Good point, yeah. And like, you know, we like fighters with different personalities. Yeah. Tyson Fury's definitely, I've got nothing against him, obviously. I just want to see the fight. Do you know what I mean? And when you're being...
It will happen, man. It has to happen because where else is, realistically, where else is Tyson Fury going to go, at least in the short term? He could back away from the fight, but then it would be such a climb down that I think there would be a massive backlash by the public. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So being one of them.
Yeah. I think what you might see is behind the scenes, they might be pushing back the date. Like I would have sure that Eddie and Frank and, you know, everybody else concerned, Bob Arum and all the rest of them, have probably got a tentative date that they're working towards. And I think maybe Fury, him coming out with this, kind of suggests to me that in the background, he might be saying to them, well, I'll fight, but we're not fighting in that month. Let's go for such and such a month. You know what I mean? So these things happen, man. Negotiations for title fights can be long and protracted and the egos involved. You know what I mean? This man wants this, that man wants that. And it's very hard to get them to agree to everything, you know? So, but I'm confident that the fight will happen sooner or later. Hopefully by the end of the year. It's just that we could be waiting a little while longer for an announcement.
Let's go to some more comments here. Ian Hamilton, my bro, what's happening, man? He's put, there is way too much money for this to be pushed back. Fury has no one to blame but himself for not fighting at the latter end of last year. I still believe this happens in the summer.
You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of like, you know, like when you're at school or college or uni and you're taking an exam and the exam date's saying June and you're thinking, yeah, man, I've got plenty of time, you know what I mean? And then you fuck about. And then all of a sudden you've got to April, you thought, shit, I haven't done any revision yet. The exam's in June. Can I get it pushed back? Or so, you know what I mean? That's how it kind of sounds like to me. I don't, like I said, I don't think Fury's scared of the fight. I just think he's thinking, boy, you know what, we're in April now. Or well, we're in April, we're in March. And, you know what I mean, I've not been in the gym that long and, you know what I mean, AJ's training away and they're presenting me with this date and that date. I'm not 100% sure I want to go ahead with that date because, you know what I mean, there's a lot of work to be done. I'm not sure I can condense it in the time allotted. You know what I mean? So I think that's what could be going on behind the scenes. But then, like I said, with Tyson Fury, you just don't know.
Time will tell, man. Mohammed in the chat here has put Wilder could be a dangerous fight to take for Fury, especially before a big fight. I agree. Yes, Fury would outbox him and knocked him out last time, but if Wilder lands that right hand, it could be over for Fury. Then he said, let's be honest, Tyson Fury didn't want to fight Dillian White. I'm not saying he's ducking him, but he just didn't want that fight. Do you agree? Do you think that Tyson Fury didn't want Dillian White?
Yeah, it would appear so. Again, not because he's scared. I mean, I know that they had some heated sparring sessions, and Dillian has come out on record, hasn't he, more than once and said, I dropped Tyson Fury in sparring. I mean, listen, sometimes it could be a thing like a guy could be considered risky before you go into a world title fight. I mean, you saw what happened with when Fury fought Otto Wallin. Remember that? That was before the Wilder fight.
Yeah.
Now, really and truly, he lost that fight, really, didn't he? Because the size of that cut, no, I'm seriously. Okay, he didn't lose it, but he could, on another given day, in another ring with another referee, I'm telling you now, they stopped that fight. Now, if he was to take a warm-up fight again and he fights somebody, supposing that cut reopens, supposing he gets caught by a shot and decked and doesn't get up this time, it's very risky. I mean, you saw what happened with Dillian White. He's one shot away from a title fight. They lined up Povetkin. The minute that fight was announced, and you'll be my you'll prove me right on this because you remember the calls and the conversations we had. I said, you know what, I don't like that fight for Dillian. Remember that?
Yeah.
Right? We spoke and I said, I don't like that fight for Dillian. He's one fight away from a world title shot. Either sit it out and wait for your shot, or if you're going to fight somebody, make it somebody of a much lesser risk. I thought that Povetkin fight was a very dangerous fight for him to take, and so it proved. Yeah. I mean, even if Dillian does beat him, which is by no means certain, look at the time that this has taken to get this fight out the way. Well over a year. I mean, he probably would have had his title shot by now.
True. So, more comments here. We've got a load of comments coming through. Big up everybody, man. Respect. Shane has said here, at the end of the day, Fury does call the shots. When he signed to ESPN, he doesn't make any decisions. When his master Bob tells him to fight, he has to fight. Raps on TV, my bro, man. What's happening, man? Big up Raps on TV in the chat. We need to get you on the show, Raps. We definitely need to get you on, man, again. Maybe try and get you on next week if you can. He did a great interview with Joshua Buatsi this week. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out on his channel, man. Raps TV doing big things. He's put here, yes, bro, great show. It could be that a pre-contract is agreed, like Ward and Kovalev. I still think Wilder's rematch may be something Fury has to honor. Do you think that might be the case? Do you think that might be something that we're not being told?
Could be. But before we go any further, I just want to say, I hope them raps are not loaded, bro. I'm sure they're not. I'm sure he's an honorable guy. But anyway, sorry, go on. What was the question again?
Yeah, so he's saying that he still thinks that Wilder's rematch could be something Fury has to honor.
Not right now. I think that there's so much controversy surrounding that fight. That's like a political minefield, isn't it? There's all sorts of machinations going on there. I'm not sure whether those two will ever fight again, you know. There's so much that's happened since that second fight that a third fight, would I like to see it? Yeah, I guess, because there's still the intrigue that if Wilder was to land a big shot, he's got the power in which to do damage. Do I think he can beat Fury? Probably not. But would I watch it? Probably. But aside from that, all the stuff that surrounds the fight, you know what I mean? All the stuff that's gone on, all the back and forth, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, man. Yeah.
Raps is laughing at your comment about the hand, Raps, man. Raps is an honourable guy, man. He's an honourable guy.
Sure he knows I'm only ramping with him, man. You know, big up Raps. Yeah.
He said he's ready to join. Yeah, we'll line it up next week, man. Definitely. We'll get him on. Raps knows his stuff, man. He definitely knows his stuff.
Yeah, so, man.
Yeah, we'll get him on. Konrad has said to it. Konrad has said, let's hope they don't hold up the division all year. I agree. Let's hope not. But yeah,
I think it's difficult for Fury to get out of this, man. You know, I mean, it's too far down the road. I mean, you got Eddie Hearn telling people that we're on the verge of announcements. Bob Arum said similar stuff. You know what I mean? If he seemed to be the one that's holding this up, it's not going to reflect well on it. You know what I mean? And I'm sure Tyson Fury, as much as he's a maverick, he's also a man of a big fighting pride and ego. And he's not going to want people to turn around and say, listen, man, you're ducking, or, you're not living up to your name of the Gypsy King and the fighting man, or, So, yeah, he'll have to sort that out at some stage, I reckon, for sure.
For the record, it's more than likely he's playing games with it, and I don't think he's scared at all. I don't think he's scared of it. But well, I'm just saying, when I see these comments coming through, I'm just like, yo, this is frustrating, man.
Yeah.
Get this deal over the line. I know
people, as I always say to people, just because you're not scared doesn't mean to say you're going to win. In fact, sometimes fighters who have gone into the ring saying they were scared, they've fought the best they've ever fought. I remember many years ago, Joe Calzaghe versus Jeff Lacey. After the fight, Joe Calzaghe, we all know, won conclusively and beat Jeff Lacey up and pretty much retired him to all intents and purposes. But he admitted after that fight that he was scared of Jeff Lacey going in. So sometimes a little bit of fear, it can be your friend, as Customato once said, you know what I mean? It can make you fight better, it will sharpen your reflexes and your senses, your instincts. So, you know what I mean? Fear can be your friend as well as your enemy.
We'll get through these comments before we get on to the next topic of the show. Mohammed has put here, Fury says he'll never fight in the UK again. That was true. He did say that, but again, he's a man of, he says a lot of things. He said he'll never fight Wilder again.
Listen, man, what Fury says one day, don't sleep on that, bro, because the next day it'll come out and say completely the opposite. Like, he's always been like that. Go back and look at some of the comments he's made very early in his career. I think he'd said as well that he'd be retired by now as well.
Yeah,
but,
I can't.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then he turned around and said he wants to be the longest reigning heavyweight champion of all time. So, bro, I've long since given up trying to read that guy's mind. It's impossible because I don't even think he knows what he's going to say next.
Sully says here, when Fury signed that big ESPN deal, it was a 5-fight deal. Schwartz, Wallin, Wilder 2. Bob Arum has 2 more fights left with Fury, and he refuses to waste one on a tune-up. That's a great point for Fury.
Now, listen, Bob Arum will not want any part of any tune-up. Neither will Eddie Hearn. Anyone involved, they'll be saying, no, it's too risky. This fight is too big. There's too much money on the line. There's too much at stake for either one of them, not just Fury, AJ as well, to take a tune-up. Like I said, possibly get cut, possibly get put down, look bad, or even worse, get beat. And listen, it's heavyweight boxing. Things can happen. As Dillian found out, like I said, you know what I mean? He had the title shot lined up, spent the last 2 years working himself into a position, beating some good opposition, got himself in line, and then they take that fight against Povetkin, and the rest is history. And that's not the first time that's happened in boxing, man. It's happened several times. So look at what happened the other day with Josh Warrington.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Shane has said here,
that was a tune-up so he could challenge some of the other guys in the division. Look what happened there. Come on, stop. Badly.
Shane has said, Hearn and Arum seem unperturbed by all of that, what Fury is saying. This is all just a smokescreen. Yeah, they do seem unperturbed by it, to be fair. So they're not really reacting to what Fury's saying. They just look like they're cracking on. It's us that's getting worried and be like, oh my God, is he not having it or not? What's going on? So, yeah, it could all just be a smokescreen.
Listen, I'm sure they are a little bit worried, to be honest. They would never come out and say that publicly because, you know what I mean, that would just betray the confidence of the fight. But I'm sure Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren and Bob Arum, if you put a little camera in their offices, they're probably tearing their hair out, or what's left of it. They're probably saying, shit, what's happening now with this guy, man? You know what I mean? So, but I think it will happen. It will happen.
Ian's put here, a clown always knows how to play his audience. So he's an AJ fan, as you know. Fury likes to mess people up, then commit to something. As someone who's followed him for years, none of it is a surprise with what he said. And then Mohammed has said here, I can see Bob Arum turning on Fury like he did with Crawford and Lopez. I wouldn't put it past him. Big up DS in the chat here. He's put, Fury's either getting cold feet because of the inactivity or he's starting the mind games already. Yeah, that's what I said earlier, DS. Good to have you here, bro. Let's move on because we've got a big fight this weekend. Chocolatito against Estrada 2, taking place in Texas, I believe. This is a rematch of their fight that they had nearly 10 years ago now in 2012. Chocolatito won that by UD. Since then, Juan Francisco Estrada has come on a lot. You know, he's picked up multiple world titles. You know, they have an opponent in common in Rungvisai, and you know, Estrada, he's defeated. I think they've got a win over each other actually. And Rungvisai defeated Chocolatito twice. Now 2021, these two are fighting. Both of them are champions, and it's a rematch that everybody's looking forward to, man. You know, it's a big fight, topping a good bill. Do you know what I mean? It's a very good bill. The undercard's looking pretty decent. I'm really looking forward to Cecilia Brækhus and Jessica McCaskill going at it again. And yeah, man, like, I'm really looking forward to this. But let me tell you something, man, and I want you to answer this for me. I was talking to my friends about this, and, you know, they're not hardcore boxing fans, but I was talking about it. You know, I said, oh, Chocolatito and Estrada. And like, who? Who are they, man? Like, what weight are they? I'm like, oh, yeah, super flyweight, man. Flyweight, nah, I'm not interested in that. If they're below lightweight or featherweight, not interested. That's literally the reaction I get when I talk about the little men. So as much as the hardcores are looking forward to this, you know, we don't need to sell it. If you're a hardcore fan, you know what this is. But if you're not a hardcore fan and you want to watch a good fight, then trust us on this one. This is a good fight. But why do you think that is? Why do you think the little men don't get enough credit? Or do you think they do?
No, they don't, especially at those weights. I mean, this fight is at super flyweight. And like you said earlier, it's going to be a great fight. It's a rematch between two great fighters. Although, especially Chocolatito is getting on in years. I think it's 33. Now, 33 for a light flyweight, it's almost ancient, really. You know what I mean? But it's still a good fight. I mean, and Chocolatito's showed some really good form recently. I mean, many of us over here saw the way he dismantled and then dropped and stopped. Was one of the Yafai brothers?
How Yafai?
Yeah, who's a good fighter himself. So that was a very impressive win. And listen, man, this man has had over 50 odd fights, and I think he's only lost a couple. So he's a legend of the game, really. But to go back to your question about are they underappreciated? Yes, they are. And I think the only reason I can really, well, it's a couple of reasons, really. They're a bit obscure, the lighter weights, because they're so small and they look small in the ring. People, I don't know, the casuals tend not to engage with them or embrace them as much. And then what you tend to find with some of the smaller weight guys as well is that they're little guys and they throw a hell of a lot of punches, and you don't see as many knockdowns or knockouts. And I think because of that reason, especially casuals, they like to see, you know, the knockdowns and stuff like that. But it's funny because with the lighter weight fighters, they throw a lot of punches and you tend to get more wars at those weights. So I don't know. But I mean, let's be honest, man, the average man walks around at what? I would say at least about 140 odd pounds. So, and people tend
more than that. The average man,
yeah,
probably like 160. Yeah?
At least from 140 upwards.
Yeah.
So, and I think we tend to look at it like that when you see two guys in the ring. If they're much smaller than you, people tend not to take it or embrace it as much. It's very difficult. It's optics, isn't it? I think it's optics. But then by the opposite to that is the heavyweights. I mean, there's not too many people walking around at the size of AJ and Tyson Fury, but people are fascinated by heavyweights. Big, strong guys, one punch can just knock a man out cold, like what Wilder was doing, I mean, and what AJ's done several. And to be fair, Tyson Fury's done it on occasion as well. And people just tend to be fascinated by the big men, you know? And you don't really get that with the lighter weights, in particularly the very small weights like strawweight, flyweight, super fly, and people like that. People don't, it doesn't resonate as much. And I think it's optics, really. So because they go under the radar, they haven't got the profile. So even though this is a big fight, it's only the hardcore boxing fans or people who take a real interest in boxing are really going to know about this fight.
There's another title fight on that card. With Kyoguchi, I think he's from Japan. And listen, even I don't know, man. I'm going to be honest, man. I'm not going to pretend, oh, look, man, I know all about. I don't. But no. I know that he's fighting on the card. It's a title fight. I think it's his first fight outside of Japan, but I think he's quite big. And he's taken on another guy. I don't know much about it. I'm not going to pretend to. I don't know if you do, but yes. But like again, he's at minimum weight. That's the lowest weight, the lowest weight class. So, how many fighters do you know from minimum weight?
I have to be honest and say I don't know many at all, if any. You know what I mean?
So that's the thing. I think
and that's the other thing as well. Unless the guys are already established and they're really good, that people are taking the time to watch them, they tend to fly under the radar. They tend to be obscure and no one shows much interest. So even when the fights are announced, it doesn't get much traction because the interest isn't there. I mean, I guarantee had those two names with the similar records, same kind of abilities and skills, had that fight been at even lightweight, like welterweight upwards, everyone would be talking about this fight.
Yeah.
I think it's just, it's unfortunate, but it's just the way it's always been in boxing, to be honest. Unless you get an absolute standout guy from, let's be fair, one of the countries more associated with boxing, like America, Britain, I mean, places like that, then maybe because the profile would be built up in those countries to a certain degree, it would get more traction there. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but it doesn't deter from the fact that this is still going to be a great fight. I actually watched the first fight before doing this stream with you, and it was a great fight, man. I'm leaning towards this time. I mean, as you alluded to earlier, that first fight was a long time ago, 2012, wasn't it, something like that?
2012.
Yeah, and it was noticeable in that fight that Chocolatito held the middle of the ring. That would indicate that he's the stronger man at that time, or the more mature man. So physically, he looked stronger. That was evident. But obviously, fast forward to now, Estrada's obviously got his man strength. He's 30 years old. So I would imagine he's going to be planting his feet a bit more and standing more toe-to-toe. And that could be the difference, man. The fact that now he's a stronger guy. He's had less fights, slightly less fights. I think he's had like 41 fights. So there'll be slightly less wear and tear on him. So I'd have to lean towards Estrada. But one thing I do know, it's going to be a great fight.
Have to agree, but then on the other hand, I'll say that I can't write Chocolatito off completely, as I'm sure you're not doing either.
No.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like the skill level. Like, I know they go to war, they throw their hands, but there's still an art to it. And I think that these two are great at it. You know, there's going to be a lot of leather flying around, but these two, they're pound for pound level fighters. They are, for me. Yeah. Let's go to the comments here quickly, man. Shane's in the comments. He's put, when I saw how Chocolatito fought Rungvisai, I thought he was shot. I was impressed with his performance with how he fought Yafai, but Yafai to me is so flawed.
It's flawed as in F-L-A-W-E-D.
Yeah, that's what he means.
Still on the floor. I'm pretty sure he got up.
No,
but that was a good win because a lot of people in this country were thinking that maybe Yafai had caught Chocolatito at the right time and that he might beat him. But on the night, he was soundly beating himself. So for Chocolatito to do that at this stage in his career, that was very impressive. So I do agree with Shane there. But I just think that Estrada, being a few years younger, a lot less fights, and he'll be a lot stronger than he was back then. He'll be a bit more confident as well, because back then he was the B side, whereas Chocolatito was the A side. Now the roles are reversed somewhat, or at least they're coming in on fairly level terms. And I think that might just give him the edge, man. I think it might just give him the edge.
Let's see how it goes, man. Big up Konrad Boxing here. He's put, I'm not going to lie, I only watch the top fights in these lower divisions. See, he's saying it, man.
Yeah. Listen, that is an inevitable fact. That is true.
It's honesty.
It's to do with optics. I don't think it's because people just automatically say, oh, I'm not going to watch small guys fight. I just think that the way our minds work and the way we visualize certain things, you just tend to gravitate more towards people who look like you, the same size as you, or a bit bigger and stuff like that. And like I said, with the heavyweights, there's a fascination factor with heavyweights that you don't get with other weights. And that just makes that on another level completely. You know what I mean? Sometimes even when the skills levels are not great with the heavyweights, people still watch it because they're expecting any minute, bang, someone's going to go and there'll be a dramatic knockout. You know what I mean? I remember even when I was an amateur, right? Check this out. I remember when I was an amateur and you'd be at shows, like say at York Hall, it was noticeable that when the lighter fighters was on, not the whole, everybody'd be in the bar. You know what I mean? But I'll tell you what, come heavyweights and super heavyweight time, everybody was out. And sometimes I have to say that the standard of some of those super heavyweight fights were not that great. but you get big guys and they're winging leather and everyone's, ooh, you know what I mean? It's just like, and they're waiting for someone to drop. And then when somebody does drop, man, it's like they're not even looking at the skill so much. They just want to see the two. Yeah, so it's a weird one, man. It's something that it's kind of hard to explain, but it is. It's there.
Shane's put, to me, it's definitely a hardcore thing. Honestly, some people are so naive, like a casual looks at the little guys and can't respect the skills.
No, he's making, that's a good point Shane makes.
Yeah. Got our guy, Salute, Jeff in the chat, man. What's going on, Jeff? He's put, where did you find this Shane Willoughby character? And he's put, salute, fellas. Well, salute, Jeff, man. Hope you're well, bro. Yeah, man, Jeff, great channel he's got over there. If you guys ain't subscribed, go over there and check it out. Jeff bringing that raw boxing talk all the way from Philly. And yeah, man, I got my Philly beard going on here, Jeff, man. So yeah, nah, it's all good. It's all good. Good to have Jeff in the chat.
Big up, Joe. Talking of that, isn't Jerome Ennis fighting soon? I'm sure. I think Jerome Ennis is fighting.
April, wasn't it?
He's fighting the Russian guy, isn't he? Lipinets. I can't wait to see that, man. That'd be a great fight.
We got Ortiz against Hooker. Is it next week? And then yeah, Jerome Ennis in April.
Yeah, so that's Philly's finest.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Listen, man, I think Jerome Ennis is definitely at some stage going to win a version of a world title. I'm absolutely sure of that. So I'm watching him closely, as I'm sure Jeff is. Big up, Jeff, by the way. Big up.
Big up, Jeff, man. DS has put, I have to lean towards Estrada as the slightly younger but much fresher man. That's what you said as well. Sule in the chat has put here, did you see the reports that Devin Haney is getting $3 million versus Linares, while Teofimo is locked in a 3-year, 1.25 minimum contract with Bob Arum? In hindsight, do you think a Loma fight was worth it? That's a good question.
I'll tell you what I would say, Sule, is that I'm more interested in Devin Haney, who he's fighting. I'm not interested in pocket watching and him telling everybody I'm getting $3 million for this fight and in pictures with stacks of money and all that. I think that's where some of these young fighters are going wrong, man. You know what I mean? By all means, you've got to be cognizant about your money and you've got to be smart in negotiating your contracts and all that type of stuff. But with some of these fighters, man, you hear more about the contract negotiations than you see them in the ring. You know what I mean? And I'm not really interested in how much Devin Haney's earning, to be honest. I just want to see him fight because he needs to get back in the ring soon. That being said, that fight with Linares is a good fight for him. I expect him to win it. But then again, you can't sleep on Linares. Linares has still got sufficient skills left to test Devin, especially as Devin is not a big puncher. But this is an opportunity for Devin to shine. So never mind the $3 million, Devin. We want to see a $1 million performance in the ring. I don't want to see you posting with stacks of money. That's not what this is all about.
He's put, because Teofimo wasn't getting that Loma fight without signing that shitty contract. Yeah, we've seen in the past, man, with Top Rank, people have had to, well, you've seen Floyd, he bought out his contract. You see Mikey Garcia, he had to wait it out on the sidelines to wait for that contract to expire. So, yeah, there's been issues in the past with Top Rank and their contracts, hasn't there?
Yeah, you're right. And you know what? I'm always surprised when I see some of these guys, the younger guys, and you're signing with people that you know have got a bad track record. I'm like, did you not see what all those other guys were saying back in the years? Did you not see that? Why would Bob treat you any different from that? Look at the guys that he's had and fallen out with. That's some serious guys there, man. You're talking about Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd, Mikey Garcia, you know what I mean? And the list goes on. Yeah. All those guys, all of them great fighters. One of them, one of the greatest ever. And with regards to Oscar, one of the biggest ticket sellers ever. None of those guys were able to forge a good working relationship with Bob. Doesn't that tell you young guys something about Top Rank?
Yeah. Jeff TV's put here, I've got beer money on Chocolatito. Might be a good bet, to be fair. Go to the chat here. Raps has said, Haney definitely has to start showing value for money. I agree.
Yeah, I feel a little bit sorry for Devin as well. That be, you know, I mean, I have criticised him over this money stuff and all that. But listen, man, Devin's got plenty of potential. He's been calling out fighters. He's not been able to get some of those fights for whatever reason. However, he does need to get his ass in the ring. And when he gets in the ring, he needs to kick ass as well because he talked himself up a lot. People want to believe in this guy, but you got to show us, man. You got to show it. I mean, let's be honest. Although he was a clear winner against Gamboa, and he won every round, and he was never in trouble, and he won, shutout. For other reasons, it wasn't particularly impressive. One of those reasons being is that Devin had spent all the time in the lead up to the fight saying he was going to get Gamboa out of there earlier. He was going to do it quicker and better than Tank, and he didn't. So even though he got the win, it was a little bit flat because the performance wasn't exactly stellar. So he needs to get back in the ring, man, and improve and prove to the world out there that he really is the real deal. And the money will come. The money will come,
Raps has said here, wait until Stevenson starts having issues with Top Rank.
I think he's having issues already, from what I see.
Is he?
Yeah, he's saying that he wants to be fighting more often. You know what I mean? I read that a couple of weeks ago, where he was saying that, he wants to get in. So he's another one. He's been calling out a lot of fighters. Who's he getting? He was calling out Frampton. He was calling out Warrington. He's calling out Oscar Valdez. He's not close to getting any of those fights. And as we all know in boxing, man, you need those big fights to raise your profile. You can be as good as you like. If you're not fighting anyone and getting the high-profile fights, your career will remain in obscurity. You need the big fights. You need the headline fights.
Mohammed just said here, why is Lopez not fighting Haney?
For the same reason that Ryan Garcia's not fighting Haney, because they see him as a serious threat to their ascendants.
High risk, low reward sort of thing?
Yeah, and I have it on fairly good authority, having done my research, that Haney used to give him the business in sparring. Now, listen, obviously sparring and fighting is two different things. But hey, man, maybe there was some things that happened in that sparring session which makes Teofimo not want to run towards a fight with Devin Haney. And we know with Ryan Garcia that Haney had beaten him quite a few times in the amateurs. I think they fought 6 times or something like that. And the last couple of times they fought in the amateurs, Devin got the better of it. Is that resonating in his mind? You know what I mean? Is that why he doesn't want to fight him? Could well be. Who knows?
Gonna go to this question here, and then I'm gonna move on to Claressa Shields, her performance against Marie-Eve Decaire. But Sully here has put, what do you make of the Pacquiao versus Mikey Garcia reports? Now, Pacquiao, he was talking about it narrowing it down to Mikey Garcia or Terence Crawford. Now it's looking like it's going to be Mikey Garcia. I don't have no issues with this fight whatsoever because, number one, Pacquiao doesn't have the belt. So for me, that means he can pick and choose who he wants now. He's 42 years old. So let's have it. I don't mind this fight at all. I like it.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, listen, man, like you said, I was getting a bit pissed off with Pacquiao when he was seemingly holding the belt, the WBA belt, to hostage. I didn't like that. He was strict, quite rightly so. Now he's a relative free agent to do what he wants. And this fight has been lined up. This is a fight I did watch at. Because although Pacquiao's advanced in years, he's still got enough skill to beat Mikey Garcia, who hasn't looked particularly impressive in his last couple of fights, to be honest. And I would watch that fight. Am I excited about it? I wouldn't say I'm excited about it, but it's a good fight to watch. So yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I don't mind.
Interruption there. I just got to have a.
I think he's going out there to let the people know because he's in the AFTV studios. I think he's going to let them know to keep the noise down. But listen, while we're here, man, let's talk about Claressa Shields. She was in action last weekend against Marie-Eve Decaire. Now, this was an undisputed title fight. And, she did the business. She made history. She became the first woman, all man, to pick up, 2 undisputed championships in 2 different weight classes. And salute to Claressa Shields, man. Dominating performance. I don't know if you saw it, but she practically won every round. She didn't get to stop or drop Marie-Eve Decaire, which again puts those comments about her beating Keith Thurman into her consideration. But let's talk about this fight here, man. She did what she had to do. She looked really good to me. Beat her easy. And now they're talking about possibly Claressa Shields, maybe even against Katie Taylor. They were talking about that. Claressa Shields was open to it, but she said that she'd have to drop quite a bit of weight. And, I think that the weight disparity might be a bit too much there. But more what's looking likely is Claressa Shields against Savannah Marshall. Now, Savannah Marshall holds a win over Claressa Shields in the amateurs. Both of them have gone on to be successful in their career so far. And let's see it. Because at the moment, I think we're running out of opponents for Claressa Shields, aren't we? So what was your thoughts?
I was quite critical of Claressa last week for some of the stuff she was carrying on with outside the ring. But as I said to you, well, you know anyway, anybody that knows boxing knows that inside the ring, you know what I mean, she's head and shoulders above everybody else at this moment in time in women's boxing, which is why I get annoyed when I keep hearing people over this side of the pond saying that Katie Taylor's the best woman boxer, when quite clearly it's Claressa Shields. But anyway, I'm not going to go too much into that because I've said what I've said about that several times before. But again, another dominating performance, won every round, looked like every second of every round. I watched the whole fight, and Maria Dicker did a lot of talking beforehand, but unfortunately, when got in the ring, she was just outclassed, just like all the others have been outclassed, to be honest.
She's just too good at the moment, isn't she?
She's too good. She's way too good, you know what I mean? And Dicker, she tried, but from the first round, it was obvious that she was completely out of her depth. And really, I think it's got to the stage now where Claressa needs somebody to test her. You know, so I think that fight that's been muted with Savannah Marshall has to happen. It has to happen. I mean, Savannah Marshall in her last fight, she looked really good as well. She's talking confidently. So yeah, man. Yeah, let's hope they can make that fight, because I think she does need a high-profile fight like that to expand her brand, if you like. Because although she's the best fighter in women's boxing, she's not really as known as she should be. Let's be honest, you know. So
got some comments here, man. Shane's put, personally, the whole Shields thing to me, I thought this is what's wrong with women's boxing. I was going to ask him to elaborate, but he has here. He's put, how can she be the best women's fighter ever when so one-sided? Hold on 1 second. He's put, how can she be the best woman ever win so one-sided but can't get a stoppage? I love Shields, but she might as well fight my mum because these fights aren't even competitive. And then he's put, women's boxing is like watching League One in French football. Konrad has put here, reminds me of the early days of women's soccer where the gaps in skill were just too large. Now, look, man, a lot of these guys here, a lot of these comments, they're looking, you know, they're thinking, look, it's not entertaining anymore. You know, she's too dominant. This ain't really exciting to watch. Like, who is out there for her? I mean, who can really... You've got Savannah Marshall. Cecilia Breakus and Jessica McCaskill are fighting. They're a lower weight, though. I mean, it's really hard to pick anyone really out there, really, isn't there? That's her size that can give her a good fight.
Well, only one is Savannah Marshall. Savannah Marshall beat her as an amateur, although she was very young. I think she was about 16 at the time, actually. But nevertheless, she holds a win over her. And Savannah Marshall, to be fair to her, has looked impressive in her professional career so far, especially her last fight when she fought Hannah Rankin and she stopped her, which, let's face it, in women's boxing is a bit of a rarity. See that. So, yeah, man, that fight needs to happen. You know what I mean? But as we've seen in so many other boxing rivalries, they never seem to get made. And I know Claressa was talking about MMA. I wouldn't like to see her do that. You know what I mean?
I think she's going to do it.
Putting out Amanda Nunes. Now, I watch a bit of UFC, and in fact, I saw Amanda Nunes at the weekend absolutely destroy an Australian girl called Megan Anderson, who was supposed to be quite good. And seriously, Amanda Nunes played with her and then just put her away. It wasn't even competitive. And as good as Claressa Shields might think that she is, she's not going to walk into a cage and beat somebody like Amanda Nunes. Not in UFC. She might beat her in boxing, yeah, but not in UFC. So I think that's an ill-advised move for her to go down there. Just stick to your boxing, Claressa. Stop calling out Amanda Nunes. Stop calling out the men, you know what I mean? Because like you said yourself, Thurman and Triple G and whoever, and Sean Porter, I don't think they were losing any sleep last week when you were basically beating on somebody that was nowhere near as talented as her, and you still couldn't get her out of it. Which that's is what Shane said. He said, that's yeah. So why the hell you think you could even mention guys like Thurman and Triple G? Like I said, it's very disrespectful, and it doesn't help.
Knockouts, does she?
I think she's only got 2 stoppages in 10, 11 fights. You know what I mean? So that's a very low KO percentage, man.
Yeah.
You know, less than 25%. So, you know what I mean? To be calling out guys like Thurman and Triple G and, you know what I mean? And Sean Porter, I'm sure they're all laughing at it, but even so, it's still a bit disrespectful in my view. Concentrate on the challenges you got ahead. And I think Savannah Marshall is a very lively opponent and a good challenge for her.
Yeah.
I mean, Katie Taylor, she'd be too small. Katie Taylor's too small. But Savannah Marshall, Savannah Marshall, that fight makes sense. So let's make that happen sooner rather than. But then again, it's boxing. So, you know, I mean, I'm sure there'll be some politics going on. And Clarissa will probably say, I'm the A side, or, you know what I mean, 80-20. And, you know what I mean? All that nonsense, man. You know what I mean? So, I don't know.
Yeah. Comments here. Sully has put, the real deal Holyfield was undisputed cruiserweight and undisputed heavyweight champ. Yeah, he was. Going back to that comment that I made, I said that Clarissa Shields was the first man or woman, but I meant in the 4-belt era. In the 4-belt era, you know, because you need 4 belts to be undisputed now, technically. But yeah, if we're going by just the term undisputed, back then it was the 3-belt era. Then yeah, of course, yeah, you can't discount Holyfield at all.
If you look at Clarissa Shields' skills level, she's on a different planet to most of these girls that she's fighting. Simply on another, she's way better than them, man. You know what I mean? It's not even close. Like Dekere, as soon as she got in there, it was obvious that she was completely out of her depth. And yes, she tried. She didn't do an Abney Yildirim or anything like that. But in terms of a spectacle, it wasn't good to watch, really, because she wasn't competitive, let's face it. And then on top of that, Clarissa, for all her skills, doesn't have the power to get these girls out of there. So in terms of being exciting, it's not exciting, is it? You know what I mean?
No.
So,
like Shane's put here, the biggest woman fight in recent times was the Hammer fight, and Shields destroyed her. This is some joke.
And how she's getting those fights on pay-per-view as well is beyond me. I mean,
yeah, Sully has put here, Clarissa Shields is like Chris Cyborg. Cyborg was too big for the UFC, and they would make a 150-pound weight class, so she had to kill herself to fight top competition. That's really happening with Shields as well. Shane's put here, the only women's sports I actually like is tennis and track and field because the competition is so much better. And then Sully's put, Chris Cyborg would kill Nunes if they fought at 150 pounds.
They've already fought, and it was the other way around. You get what I'm saying? But and that Amanda Nunes, you know what I mean, put Chris Cyborg away, which is why I was saying that when I see Clarissa calling out Amanda Nunes, to me, that's almost, it's not quite in the same ballpark of stupidity, but it's nearly as stupid as her calling out Keith Thurman. Because Amanda Nunes is an absolute beast in UFC. How you think of no UFC experience, you're going to walk into a cage and beat her? It could be just gaslighting, man. I mean, but like I said, Clarissa is a brilliant fighter, and I love to see her in the ring displaying her talent. I just wish some of this stuff she talks outside the ring, she would just let that go. Because when she does actually engage in other subjects, she's actually a very interesting and intelligent woman. It's just some of the nonsense that she comes out with to promote her fights. It's not always in the best taste, put it that way.
If she does beat Savannah Marshall, who's next? Shane's put Samuel Peter, but like, I mean, who does it? I mean, I don't know what she'd do. Like, let me ask this question with Clarissa Shields. Yeah, how would she have got on against female fighters in the past, like Layla Ali, Ann Wolf, those type of characters? Like Clarissa Shields calls herself the GOAT. Would she have beaten them too?
That's very difficult to say. It's a hypothetical question. And Ann Wolf and Layla Ali are a lot bigger than her as well. You know what I mean? I mean, I've seen a couple of Ann Wolf fights, and she's a very menacing and very intimidating woman, man. You know what I mean? Both in and out the ring. She's actually trained James Kirkland.
Yeah,
you know I mean? I've gone on YouTube and seen some of the videos of them two training together. Jeez. And Layla Ali as well, she was a very good fighter. I know there was a time when people were talking about Layla Ali versus Ann Wolf, and again, boxing politics that never got made. Each side accusing the other one of ducking. So I wouldn't really like to say. I mean, listen, Layla Ali was actually talking about coming out of retirement to fight Clarissa Shields. There was talk, but it never really amounted to much. All I know is that right now, Clarissa Shields is the best women's boxer. Until somebody beats her, I've got her down as the best women's boxer, hands down. But while we're talking about boxing, I guess we should, you're probably going to do it anyway, mention that there's a rematch this weekend, isn't there, between Cecilia Brækhus and Jessica McCaskill. Yeah, so be interesting.
I mean,
it's a rematch.
I'm looking forward to that. Shane's put here, I guess you haven't seen the meme with Samuel Peter. Who next? No, I haven't seen it, actually. No, I haven't seen it, bro. But yeah.
I hope whatever that meme is, he's not talking about coming out of retirement. Because, you know.
I haven't seen it, no.
Or maybe he's going on the tour with Tyson. I don't know. Yeah, that'll probably be a better move. We'll
close out this show by talking about that rematch and David Benavidez as well, who's returning to the ring this weekend. But we'll start off with Cecilia Brækhus and or Brækhus. I don't know how to pronounce the name, but you know who I'm talking about anyway. She's taking on Jessica McCaskill in a rematch, undisputed again, second consecutive week. We've got undisputed title fights, so that's good. Who's going to win this one? Because Jessica McCaskill was a huge underdog. She pulled off the upset. I think Brækhus is a slight favorite on the cards for this one, for this rematch. But entertaining fight first time round. McCaskill got the decision. She's only going to grow with that win as well. And this is actually one fight I'm really looking forward to. I think, yeah, this is going to be something to really look forward to, man. I like Jessica McCaskill's style. I thought she gave Katie Taylor a lot of what she... Well, I thought she gave Katie Taylor one of her toughest fights at the time before she fought Delphine Bassoon. And, you know, she got a lot of heart. But
Katie Taylor lost to Delphine Bassoon. Yeah.
Yeah. But then, yeah, look, I think that she's grown since that fight. And I think she'll grow even more after that win against Brækhus. I think this is going to be a great rematch. Brækhus retired, didn't she, after that? But she's come back now. And, like, they're going to get it on. So, very entertaining undercard for a good show, man.
Yeah, you know what? I'm with you. I'm leaning towards the younger person. I think youth will be served again. I think Jessica McCaskill basically outworked her last time, and I fancy her to do the same thing this time. I mean, that fight was last year. Cecilia Brækhus is a year older. She's 39 now. Now, that's long in years, and she's been boxing a long time.
She's got the best women's record. Ain't she got the best record in women's boxing?
Yeah, she's only lost the one fight, and she's had like 30-odd fights. And you know what I mean? So this is what happens in boxing. You know, what the old saying goes, man, 5 of the time it's undefeated. So we could be seeing that again here. Although, you never know, man. I mean, look at Manny Pacquiao, Thurman. Sometimes when the older guys, they might have that one night still left in them. So maybe that's the same for Cecilia Brækhus. To be honest, we're not going to see no stoppages. So it could come down to who throws and lands the most punches. So given that scenario, I would go for Jessica McCaskill, but I wouldn't put my mortgage on it, put it that way. But it should be a good fight.
I still can't believe she didn't get Fighter of the Year, man. With the sorry to bring this back up again, but how she didn't get the Women's Fighter of the Year last year by the Ring magazine.
Some of the things that go on in boxing, man, you just have to scratch. It's about boxing. It's so political. It's so people are invested in all sorts of different ways. And so because of that, there's lots of injustices that go on, you know what I mean? And I'm talking from decisions in the ring to people on the pound for pound list to awards that the people hand out and stuff. You know what I mean? It's just so political, man. It's just so driven by self-interest and stuff like that, that it's almost impossible to get the real narrative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've long since given up. You know what I mean? Like I said, I've got a real problem with the way Canelo's held in such high esteem. How can you have a man, pound for pound, the face of boxing, who's a ped abuser? What other sport do you think that can happen in? Seriously, I'm waiting. Someone tell me. Put it in the comments, bro. Somebody write into Daryl and on what ground should that be the case? When you got another guy, just look a bit further south than super middleweight. Go down to welterweight. You've got another guy who's unbeaten. He's won titles at lightweight, light welterweight, which he cleaned out the division. At welterweight, he's won titles, 6 defenses of the welterweight title, all stoppages. And he's done so, as far as we're aware anyway, without the use of pads. And he doesn't get the recognition he deserves. I mean, I know boxing, you know, can be a subjective sport, but come on, bro. What other sport would you see that happening?
It's true. It's true. Let's talk about one of your favorite fighters then, or let's not say your favorite fighter, but a fight that you campaign to get inside the ring with Canelo. David Benavidez returns this weekend against Roland Ellis. And look, you made some good points there, by the way, what you just said there. I can't argue with anything that you said, to be fair, about Canelo. But Benavidez has been chasing Canelo down. Yeah. He's in good shape for this fight against Roland Ellis. I think this guy who he's fighting, I think he spars with Canelo, Roland Ellis.
Roland Ellis, okay.
So, maybe.
I'm looking forward to Benavidez. He's a very good fighter. He's still very young as well, 24, massive for the weight. I think he's, 6'2". He throws a lot of punches, and he's a hard puncher and skillful. So, listen, he's pretty much the complete package so far. The one area where he has shown frailties, though, is in his discipline. I mean, we know he got, well, it's not accused, it's actual truth that he failed a test for cocaine, wasn't it? That was in his system, so he got stripped of his belt there.
He admitted that. He did admit it.
Yeah, and then there was his time on the scales, again, lack of discipline, not making the weight. I think for this fight, because he's been on weight for a while now, he says he's looking great. I'm looking forward to seeing him because he's a very talented fighter and he's also good to watch. And I like his energy, man. He's not just calling out Canelo, but he's calling out Charlo as well, publicly. You know what I mean? He's calling out Caleb Plant. He's calling out everybody. He wants to smoke with everyone, man. And don't you think that's refreshing to see that? You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Especially when it comes to Canelo, because I think one of the criticisms I have with people like Charlo, Andrade, and one or two others is that, like I said to you last week, they don't seem to have that energy to want to call him out the way they should be. You know what I mean? They've said they want to fight, and I've got no doubts that they do want to fight. But I think sometimes you need to go beyond, make yourself a nuisance. You know what I mean? If we go back in time, the man behind me there, Muhammad Ali, if you look at the history books, you will see that he once turned up outside Sonny Liston's house, harassing him for a fight. You know what I mean? So in keeping with that, that's what I like to see fighters do. Call man out and you know, make it known that you want to fight. If you're not getting those fights. I mean, some fighters don't have to call people out, but you know, if you're on the come up and you know, I mean, you've identified certain guys you think you can beat, that means you can get to that next level. Yeah, man. Don't need to be disrespectful, but make people know that you know, you fancy that fight and you think you can beat them.
Konrad Boxing has said here, Benavidez seems more mature these days. I'm rooting for him at 168. Yeah, if he carries on this attitude, I'm rooting for him as well. But
it's hard not to root for a guy like that. It's hard not to.
I will say something though, which I'm sure you'll agree. I agree with what Konrad's saying there, but we saw this with the likes of Errol Spence. When he wasn't the champion, he had this same sort of attitude. When he got the belt, he didn't keep that up. Do you know what I mean? Is it going to be the same thing with Benavidez again?
You know what that comes down to? Money. What the famous, now famous Marvin Hagler say about it's impossible to keep up that drive, you know what I mean? Wake up out of bed at 5 in the morning when you're wearing silk pajamas. So yeah, some of these guys, man, once they get the titles, they get the money, they get the fame, the hunger dissipates. And I think that's what we're seeing with Errol Spence. Very disappointing. Like you said, when Errol Spence was on the come up, he was calling everyone out. And I remember him calling out Kell Brook. And what struck me, what was very impressive about that is that he took the fight in this country, something that a lot of Americans don't seem to want to do. You know what I mean? To take fights in other countries like that. And he did that and he won. And the Kell Brook that he fought at that time was a very good version of Kell Brook. And a lot of people at the time were saying that Kell Brook would keep his title. So for him to come over here, do a number on Kell, take the title off him, that was very impressive. But it has to be said that since then, a lot of what Errol Spence has done outside the ring has been disappointing. Obviously, he had the car crash. I think we're seeing a change of attitude now with regards to his training anyway. But I'm still disappointed, man, that he doesn't seem to want to entertain the Terence Crawford fight. So much so that Crawford is now talking about moving up to junior middleweight to fight Charles. This happened. It's what Rigondeaux, I remember Rigondeaux in Frampton and Scott Quigg and all these guys were ducking. It was disgusting. You remember that, don't you? They were ducking Rigondeaux. In the end, the guy had to jump up 2 weights to fight Lomachenko. And people were surprised when he got beaten so easily. You know, so that's boxing for you, man.
Gonna have to end it on that note, man. Yeah, we're gonna have to wrap it up for this week. But listen, another great show. We covered everything we needed to cover today. And listen, man, thank you to everybody, first of all, in the comments, everybody that's watched the video, liked, shared the video, subscribed, added your opinions. It's always valued. And yeah, great show again, guys. Laurie, do you want to close it out?
Yeah, man, I echo everything you just said, man. Thanks for having me on the show. And one thing I would say in closing is that to the people watching this show, don't treat us like the light flyweights, man. You know what I mean? Engage with us. Share the video, man. You know what I mean? Don't treat us like the lighter weights. We've got the talent. We just want people to watch it. So share the video, like, subscribe to the channel, and let everybody know what we're doing here, man. We're trying to do some good stuff.
Couldn't have said it better myself, guys. Well, listen, man, have a good evening. And we'll catch you all soon, man. We'll catch you next week.